And I am Melissa Witt. I am the program specialist for the Center for Cooperatives at the College of Food, Agriculture, and Environmental Sciences here at The Ohio State University. And we're excited that you've decided to take this course here and join us today for another session of the Appalachian Cooperatives Initiative. Just a few housekeeping items before we dive in. Would just like to let everyone know that participants can ask questions throughout the session using the chat function on the Zoom toolbar. We'll also be sharing links to resources using the chat function. This session is being recorded and will be available online. We'll send out an email to registered participants when the recording is made available, and just give us a little bit of time as we're able to edit the video and make it available to everyone with accessibility. At the end of today's session, you'll be redirected to our evaluation. Your feedback does help us improve future learning opportunities, and we appreciate all of your responses. So if you can take the time to do that, we really appreciate that. The CFAS Center for Cooperatives provides education, training, and technical assistance on the cooperative business model across the region. As a part of that work, we convene a special program called the Appalachian Cooperatives Initiative, which is a learning network connecting cooperative, community, and business and economic developers and advocates in the Central Appalachian region. The goal of this initiative is to contribute to the development of a thriving co-op ecosystem in Central Appalachia by building awareness of the co-op model, equipping practitioners with knowledge and skills, and facilitating a connected network of co-op and community developers, all like yourselves. The initiative was born out of collaborative dialogue of partners in the Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania regions. So to kick things off, we'd like to get to know who is on the session today to help tailor some of our conversations. So we have just a few items for everyone to join us in. We have a poll here today that if you all would participate, that would be great. Please tell us a little bit about your role that describes your connection to the cooperative business or economic development community. So you can select one of the answers there and let us know who we've got joining us today. So we've got one of everyone. So we're well represented today. This is great. We've got community members, employees or leaders. We've got educators. We've got economic development professionals. We've got a little bit of everyone with us. Well, today we're excited to be exploring the topic, Unleash Potential with Cooperative Management. Cooperatives agree to a set of principles, as we know, the first of which is voluntary and open membership. The principle states that anyone able to use the services and willing to accept the responsibilities of membership should be allowed to voluntarily join the cooperative. Yet this is open membership sometimes contradicts current corporate business practices, where firms try to find the best talent to compete in the industry. Teaching our session today is Daniela Kojo. Daniela is the founder of Might We, a consulting firm that helps teams collaborate better even when the challenges are complex and solutions are unclear. She leads teams through conversations to gain a deeper understanding of core opportunities and experiment with innovative solutions. Might We is committed to supporting small businesses and worker cooperatives in order to strengthen local economies and create more opportunities for people to shape their futures. I'm going to ask Daniela to introduce herself a bit further, and then we can jump into today's material. So Daniela, if you could introduce yourself, welcome to our session.
Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. And thank you, Melissa, for the introduction. Yeah, so let me start sharing my screen. Oops, I went into slideshow mode before sharing my screen. But as Melissa said, that is the work that I do. I started this because I was working more in corporate spaces, but really wanted to see how can we really be building the economy that we want. And I think it has to start with creating spaces for people to build cooperatives. And so I started learning a lot more about the world of worker cooperatives. And from there, I've loved what I've learned. I've loved thinking about participatory management practices and cooperative management. And I'm just really looking forward to sharing some tools with you that I've learned along the way in hopes of giving everyone some skills to learn and work better. Just so you know, this will be mainly workshop format, so we'll get everyone involved shortly, but I'll kind of introduce it a bit. So the topic is unleashing the potential of cooperative management. And to me, this really means right before that we started talking, we were talking with Isabel, and she said she feels like she has like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Of how are you really dealing with these huge problems? And right now, there aren't enough resources dedicated to solving them in the way that we might want. So how can we really use different cooperative principles to see how we can be building to the future that we want to create? And I think that co-ops have really helped in creating foundations to help us do that. So again, to introduce myself, I'm Daniela. I'm the founder of Might We to help teams discover the power they have, and I give them tools to find new opportunities to collaborate. My email is down here, daniela@mightwe.co. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions after, or if you want to just keep in touch. I'm new to this space and just want to continue to build my own network within this ecosystem because I think it's so cool, and I want to see how I can just get more and more involved. Today, we'll have three main parts. First, I'll introduce the principle one of cooperative management and lay that as the groundwork of the work that we're doing. Let's see. Okay, cool. Second, we're going to be doing two activities. So the first activity will be identifying opportunities to collaborate, and I'll give you all a tool that you can use, we'll be using within the session, but hopefully you'll be able to use it outside of the session as well. And then a second tool around how to create safe to fail experiments. So to ground everyone in cooperative management, the International Cooperative Alliance has defined 7 principles that they think any cooperative should use while defining the work that they're doing. And the first is this voluntary and open membership, where any individual who wants to use the services of the co-op and is willing to accept responsibility of membership should be allowed to join. You know, there's a lot that you can unpack to give boundaries around what would qualify someone in terms of willing to accept the responsibility. But I think the part that is so important to me while thinking about this voluntary and open membership is it starts with the underlying assumption that everyone has something to contribute, and that anyone who's outside your current world and your current organization probably has something that they can give to expand what is possible within your own organization. So my goal here today is to give you some tools to start thinking about how you can expand your own reach and bring someone else in, so you can have a shared growth within the work that you're doing. So there are a lot of ways we can do this. I find working together on something is the best way to try out a new activity. And so today, for the purposes of this session, we're going to use part of the mission of the Appalachia Cooperatives Initiative. And part of their mission is they want to facilitate joint cooperative development activities in Central Appalachia and allow practitioners to better utilize existing resources. So for the purposes of this workshop, I want everyone to be thinking about how can you be part of doing this? At the end of the session, we're not going to say, okay, now go do X, Y, and Z, but we want you to think about what could you do in this instance, and you won't have to be committed to doing anything that you're laying out within this activity. We more want to use this as a thought starter so you can think about what you could be doing. And so you can use this practice and this tool in other ways outside of this this context, but at least we're really working towards something within the session. So a really great tool that I've found for finding ways to collaborate and bring people in is a tool around identifying assets that was created by Strategic Doing. So if each of us are thinking, what could we do to facilitate this joint cooperative development in Central Appalachia and allow practitioners to better utilize existing resources? just thinking about what could I do seems overwhelming. So they've broken it out into 4 different categories of what you can think about as your own assets that you could contribute. So do you have any meetings in terms of physical or natural assets? Do you have any meeting spaces or classrooms or a bus that you might be able to use for some project? Do you have any social assets? Do you have any connections to professional organizations or a government connection, or an author of a book who may come speak, or a business owner who might have some technical resources or tools that they'd be willing to share with you? Do you have any capital assets? You know, capital assets are real, and there is money as a capital asset you could contribute. But there's also new expanded ways to think around assets in terms of capital assets, like editorial space in a newspaper or administrative support, or even something you or your organization has like in a back room or a storage space that could be donated. And then also thinking about skills and knowledge as true assets that could be contributed. So is it that you could contribute writing or public speaking or website building or anything from research or cooking, anything that you could be contributing, even if it's an interest or a knowledge base that you could contribute to helping potentially facilitate this joint cooperative development. So what we're gonna do now, I'm gonna send you all a message in the chat and let you all join. I think we're a small enough group that we can stay as one whole team. And so as you're joining, I'll explain the activity. But we're gonna have you join this PowerPoint or this Google Doc. Yep, I see you all joining. And you'll be joining on slide 8. And what we're going to do is we're each going to introduce ourselves, and then we're going to brainstorm what assets we could potentially bring to facilitate joint cooperative development in Central Appalachia and allow our practitioners to better utilize the existing resources. So what is something we could potentially bring? And I'm not saying like 20 things, I'm thinking like 4 to 5. And then we'll share them in a circle across our team. And then as we're doing this, think about if there's anything else that you forgot that you'd want to add. And we'll do one more round to identify anything that we haven't thought about immediately. So to start off, can everyone get into the document? I see lots of little bubbles, and then scroll down to page 8 if you haven't already. Wonderful. Now what I'd like to do, I'd like to just get everyone off mute so we can meet and who everyone is. So Melissa, you already introduced yourself. Samantha, I'll pick you next. Would you come off mute and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Samantha Black. I work with OSU CFIS Center for Cooperatives. I'm the program coordinator. So I'm the one that orchestrates and starts all of the promotion and coordination of all training and events.
Thank you. Peggy, why don't you go next?
Yeah, I'm Peg Williams, and I am a longtime Linden resident, and many people consider me a strong advocate, and I do consider myself a strong advocate for the Linden community. And we are currently formed a nonprofit known as the One Linden's Cooperative, and this is the work that we're trying to do at the local level versus in rural areas. I'm trying to do this with inside the boundaries of my community.
Wonderful, thank you, Peggy. Isabel, why don't you go next?
I'm Isabel Brumley, and I am the liaison for the state of Ohio for the Department of Agriculture. And our goal is to connect hurting communities with resources, and we offer grants, funding opportunities, educational opportunities in form of scholarship to students to promote agriculture, and jobs. We offer jobs in those areas where people need jobs, right? So those are some of our resources that I can think of right now.
Thank you. Debbie, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Debbie Roush, and I work for USDA Rural Development. And I guess our what we bring to the table is both technical assistance and capital through the form of grants and loans. And then we also, rural development, or the part of rural development that I'm working with is the cooperative services branch. So we also do technical assistance and some educational materials for the entire US.
Wonderful, thank you. Elizabeth?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Schuster. I'm an agricultural economist, and I'm here wearing two different hats. Through my research with agricultural economics, the local food economy, I work with a lot of farmers co-ops, so I'm interested in applying this knowledge to my research. And as an ag economist, I am a member of a co-op of other small firms who do the same work as I do. So I also want to see how I can bring this information back to the own co-op that I'm a member of.
Wonderful, thank you. And Jessica?
Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm a master's student at Ohio State studying environment and natural resources. And most of my research interests lie in promoting pro-environmental behaviors and sustainability. And for me, cooperative systems and cooperative management is a key component of sustainability and sustainable systems and economies. So this was just something I wanted to learn a little bit more about today.
Very cool, thank you. So now what I want everyone to do on slide 8 is think about 4 or 5 things within any of these categories that you could contribute, and then write directly within the bucket what you could contribute. And again, I just want to reiterate, this is a workshop, we're practicing right now. Don't feel like anything you're writing is something you have to contribute, but just anything that could potentially be useful. Okay, it seems like it's slowing down, so people have added their own things. I'm going to have us go in a circle again and share what you've added. And what I want the rest of us to do is, while the other person is sharing what they added, if you have any questions about what they've listed, or you're not sure how this could be something that could potentially be actionable to facilitate actionable in any way, then I encourage you to ask a question. You're welcome to raise your hand or just say it out directly. So let me get back to the list of participants. Melissa, did you contribute any?
I did.
Wonderful. Do you want to start?
Sure, absolutely. So just going through, starting with the beginning, physical. Here at South Centers, we have meeting space that we can offer should anyone need a place to meet. We also have a unique opportunity to do field tours. This is a 144-acre farm, and we have a lot of really great opportunities for ag and growth for a lot of various crops, depending on what our researchers are currently working on. And we do several field tours. So I know we have in the past worked with many different co-ops that have come here to see our pawpaws or to experience the raspberries, for example. So we have a lot of really wonderful knowledge to be able, not just within our researchers, but the actual crops, and being able to give tours and provide hands-on information in the field, literally in the field.
Wonderful, thank you.
Hmm.
Samantha, do you have anything any that you wrote down?
I did in the social through previous employment as well as here. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So I did social through previous employment and plus employment here. I have the connections with local government and agencies throughout the Southern Ohio region, or I know where to point you to and who you need to talk to. So that's kind of my little connection or tidbit that I have.
Thank you. Isabel, is there anything you were able to write?
Yeah, I wrote that we offer technical assistance to farmers and communities, issues of farming. we really can do detailed training as a outcome of the research done at Central State University, which we support and build capacity for. And then their research is translated into outreach to the community and also funding opportunities. That's what I wrote. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. And hi, Andrea, I think you just joined. So what I'll do is I'll share. Nope, she might have just left, so never mind. But thank you, Isabel. Jessica, you're next on my list.
Hi, yeah. So for social assets, I put connections to OSU professors. I'm here like trying to increase my own knowledge, but don't really feel confident calling myself an expert in quite anything yet. But that said, as a student, you definitely have unique access to like, you know, people are so receptive to just having that OSU title and being like, hi, I'm curious about this thing. So connections to people within the university. And with that, for my tangible skills, I feel like I have a lot of stamina for like reading, writing, and research, where I am comfortable being on like a, I don't know, like a back end of something, in the sense of being like behind the scenes, you know, doing the digging through like resources and comparing best practices, as opposed to more, you know, I like people, but I'm not a confident public speaker. So like I recognize that I could probably be more useful focusing more on the bookish side of things.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Hi, I am aware that technically speaking, Worcester is just north of the Appalachia region, but the OERDC campus does have a lot of underutilized conference rooms and meeting rooms. I'm not actually employed by OSU, but I have a lot of contracts through them. So that's why I have an office space there. And then I added collaborative strategic planning. I have been told by people who go through my collaborative strategic planning processes that I have a somewhat unique approach. We get anywhere, most of my projects I've had in the last 2 years have had 200 people participating in these strategic plannings. We usually get 50 different organizations, and it takes a unique skill set to know how to bring together that many partners in a streamlined way, collect feedback from them in a meaningful way that you're actually listening, and then turn that into goals, shared goals. So that's something I can add.
Very cool, thank you. Peggy?
I didn't get to write anything. Oh,
Do you want to just share now?
okay.
You can write as you talk.
All right. Under the physical and natural assets, I can add, you know, access to meeting places within the community that I live. Under skill and knowledge asset,
Would you remind me of where you said you live?
I'm Linden, yeah. Access to meeting spaces within the Linden community. For skills, I guess I would declare myself a historian, a community historian. And I think that's helpful when you're looking at spaces, to have some knowledge about what that space used to be, and turning it into being and repurposing it. I do serve within the social area. I will be serving on the South Linden Area Commission, and through that service, we'll have connection with local government. Nothing on the capital side right now. And I'm looking forward to being able to access funding opportunities and loans.
Wonderful, thank you. Isabel?
Sorry, I was muted. So we offer grant. Are we going in order?
You can do it in whatever order you'd like.
Yeah. Okay, for skill, we do offer seminars on how to write how to win grants. We're very good at that. So, and then on funding opportunities, on the capital, there are a lot of funding opportunities and loans available through USDA, and I can make them known to people. That's it.
Wonderful, thank you. Jessica, did I go to you? My order swapped a little bit.
Yeah, you got to me.
Okay. Who is there anyone I
Debbie.
haven't?
Roche.
Roche. Oh, Debbie. Wonderful, Debbie. Will you share too?
Yeah, I had connections to other cooperatives across the U.S. from the social assets perspective. Since we do training with co-ops across the U.S., we've got access to lists of folks that might be doing something similar and can share information back and forth and make those connections. And then on the capital side, I added grant programs and loan programs that we have to offer. I think that's where I put it. I think that's pretty much, oh, and then on the skill side, I had board of director training and cooperative development. So from ground up, and then once you're up and running, can also do some training as far as skill sets needed and processes.
Wonderful, thank you. And Andrea, you just joined, but I will share the link with you all in the chat again. And so you're welcome to join in on the chat session, but what we'd love to hear from you is do a quick intro of who you are, why you've come here, and then what this is we're sharing any different assets, be it something physical that we have or any skills that we have, if we were to help contribute to the Appalachia Cooperative Initiative's goal to facilitate joint cooperative development activities and better utilize existing resources. But you can start with just your name and who you are if you'd like, since I know you're coming in late.
And I'm sorry, I kept
Not a
having
problem.
problems logging in. I came in at once and I saw you and then it pushed me out.
Oh,
And then, yeah, I was having some issues. My name is Andrea Harrell. I'm from Renaissance Group, which is a nonprofit. I've been to one previous meeting before. Unfortunately, I missed another one that was sent, but I was able to come to this one. The nonprofit is named Renaissance Group. It's in Washington, D.C. We are looking to establish a cooperative, which is why I joined. I see some of the things that you have as far as assets in different categories. There are certain things that I can be able to assist with as far as those assets. No, I'm not sure about the Central Appalachian. I know from this area, and a lot of it is nationwide. So it also would apply to the area that you're looking to be able to. So those connections can be made. Definitely through some of the working groups that I have here, where they're always looking to be able to do partnerships. And they actually like for people to come into the working groups and explain to the nonprofits or to the organizations that are within the working group what they're doing. And I can put it on our social media. There are assets that we have that I can be able to share with you that we're actually using that can be able to apply, which is grants, foundations, and then just connections as well. So
wonderful, thank you.
Hope that answered.
Yeah.
With you. Yeah, because I mean, I always share. We share on our LinkedIn always. I go in and put in grants, and it's not just within the DMV area. It's from the West Coast to the Midwest to the South, and with different categories, not necessarily with social impact or anything else. So whomever it applies to. And with one of the working groups, it's more than, I think now it's 500 nonprofits that are within that are within the area, and then their connections. And so I know that there were some people, when I was talking to them, they were asking about, when I was speaking about cooperatives. So maybe it's something where, if possible, if I can make the connections, would you want to be able to, or if you would possibly be able to come and speak about what you're doing and how you're doing it, um, including with DC government, if that's possible?
Wonderful. I think those are all great suggestions. And so what we're doing right now is we're just listing, I'm introducing a tool to talk to people about how you can look at assets that you're bringing in a new way.
Mhm.
So I think that you've listed so many wonderful things.
Can I
And
ask a
right now what we're
question?
doing is practicing using the tool, not saying that anyone has to do anything in any way. So I don't want you to feel on the spot that you have to be contributing in these ways or
Well,
not.
no, I actually, that's one of our pillars.
Perfect.
That's what we do.
Okay,
So-
good. I just wanted to give you that context and wasn't sure if I had said that enough with you jumping in.
Daniela, can I ask one question, and I'm not going to take away
Go
from
for it.
any more of your time, but do you also have where you're connecting what it is outside of the assets that you have on how that's an outlook and connecting with, well, I guess in business terms, it would be a proposition value of what you're going to do with those and mapping it out to its
So
ultimate outcome?
So actually the next phase of this process, and this is a process that I'm introducing through the strategic doing framework,
Mhm.
is now starting to link the different assets. And so it's not yet at, I think people can use this skill and you can definitely link it to what different assets you have or what different outcomes as well. This is more open because it's based in the complexity theory of work where you're not necessarily tying to working towards specific outcomes. But that doesn't mean that it can't be used in other ways as well. It's more to get people to expand what they're thinking about what they can bring to a group.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So what, as Andrea was asking of what do we do with this now? So we have this list of assets. What we do now is we think about how we can link the different assets that we're seeing together. Whoops. So what we'll do is we're going to first think about what can be combined that makes a lot of sense to us. And I'll then go back to the list. And then we'll select a few assets at random that seem like they might not be able to connect and see if there are any ways we can combine them. And I'll be taking notes of all the potential linked assets. Let me just take a second and move these. So as you're all here, look at slide 8 and start thinking about what different assets can be linked. And then I'll be back with you in a second. Maybe what I'll have you do actually is use the chat, or what we'll do is we'll go around and we'll loop again in one more time. For instance, those are already on here. So what I want everyone to do is think about one or two things that could be linked together. So I can start. So one thing that could be linked as I was hearing you all talk was community historian and writing, where I could see, I could even see the 3 linked of community, historian, writing, and social media. It's 3 assets that could be linked to make a stronger support of facilitating joint cooperative development or better utilizing existing resources, where this historical perspective could help co-ops understand what has happened in the past to help us understand where we want to go in the future. The next person I'll pick on is Melissa. Will you share one idea you have of combining the different resource assets that are listed?
Oh my, there's so many. I was just kind of thinking mine naturally what to connect. I mean, you could pretty much meeting space and or field tours, definitely connecting with brainstorming sessions with any of the co-op or even government agencies. We definitely could utilize meeting spaces to be able to brainstorm and talk with any of these individuals, and the list would go on and on. That pretty much would fit with any of these for meeting space. Obviously, we need a space to be able to come together. Obviously, we do a lot of online virtual Zooming, but especially whenever it comes to actually mapping out and using any kind of additional whiteboards or tangible items. So that's the one thing that I guess for my contribution that I could see for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Samantha?
I would say probably accessing or meeting space at Worcester. I would put that in with collaborative strategic planning, just because that could be a meeting place to put together. And then also connections with OSU professors. Comes to mind is like Brian Raisin, who is great with strategic planning. So those kind of three I would throw together.
Brian, and what was Brian's last name?
Raisin, R-A-I-S-O-N.
Perfect, thank you. Isabel?
Okay, I was looking at the webinars and education opportunities could combine with writing, research. Something else. Share knowledge of grants could be combined in social with connections with co-op. That's it.
Nice, thank you. Andrea?
I was looking at brainstorming sessions with collaborative strategic planning. I also think it can also tie in with technical assistance, because you're kind of doing some of the same processes, but you're doing it with an expert. And then also, where is it? The connections with local government agencies. Also with, well, yeah.
You can say
Well,
I didn't
yeah.
you wrong. It works for someone else.
Well, I guess depending on the agency, as far as on the government side, shared knowledge of grants and funding opportunities and loans and what they have in their bailiwick within that could be able to assist. And for physical space, with access to meeting spaces within the community, I also think that you can be able to create different brainstorming sessions as well, like going to those spaces to be able to meet and have breakout sessions and so forth. I like the brainstorming portion. That's why I keep going back to that. I like strategic. I always have. And that was pretty much it so far.
Yeah, thank you. Debbie?
I think most of the connections that I was looking at have kind of been captured in some of the other ones. Just looking at like the skills, any of those types of skills could be connected with the meeting space and the physical, and then the social capital, being able to bring folks to that meeting, being a convener.
Yeah,
Whether that's a convener of connections to others or convening access to capital, any of the capital assets that are down there.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
Sure. One of the things I've observed through my strategic planning with various organizations is most organizations don't even know what their business model is. And that means that they aren't thinking strategically about how to piece together both loans and a variety of funding opportunities. So I'm going to put together those two board of directors training, because the board of directors need to understand this. And then another missed opportunity I'm seeing is I am going to link this also to connections with local government, because I have seen some missed opportunities because we're not talking about business model, loans and grants, and how to finance these things. I have personally seen missed opportunities to have the local government support co-op projects like in the downtown area, infrastructure projects. So I think it's all related.
Thank you. Jessica?
I'm just actually thinking about building community connections. So I like the connections with other co-ops and the meeting spaces, specifically like the outdoor meeting spaces. Like an optional additional thing would be, I think the grant writing is an important aspect, like pulling from that, the skill category and the capital category as well. You know, my original intent is like, oh, it'd be just super cool to have like a community event where it's all folks who sort of share this like interest or value. But if you wanted to add like a practical applied component, it could also be focused on grant writing and sharing resources about grants.
Thank you. And Peggy?
I appreciate you, Miss Elizabeth, for bringing out that connecting, collaborative, strategic planning, because I think about, for me, being at the grassroots level, technical assistance is real important to simply learn how to maneuver through the social media and maneuver through research in order to get the information that you need. Also, I see writing, connecting the writing, the technical assistance, because with writing, you need to know the jargon of writing, and the jargon, the verbs, the verbiage, as well as the format that grants would need to be, grant applications need to be prepared, and having that social contact connection with local government, because I'm right now approaching local government to support the One Linden's Cooperative. So having someone who knows how to maneuver through those channels is very important.
Yeah, thank you all. Did I forget anyone? Cool. So the next thing we're going to do with this is think about, how do you move from these linked activities where we have different activities to generating safe to fail experiments? As mentioned before, this is a workshop we're kind of playing right now. But if you're thinking about using this in real life, once you have these linked skills, to Andrea's point, what do we do? Within the world of complexity, we talk about building safe to fail experiments from here to test out different relationships and connections. So we want to think about things that will not create any lasting harm, even if it fails, something that's no cost or low cost, something that provides a learning opportunity, and something that can be implemented by the people in this meeting. So like I think Elizabeth said, she had meeting space that she doesn't necessarily own, but she has access to, which means it's something that she can do. But if it would be something that she would have to ask a few people before she would get access, that wouldn't be something that would be part of a safe to fail experiment. For the purposes, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to post within here all of our linked assets that we had just brainstormed. a long list for all of us, which is great. I'm going to just move it off the board a little bit so people can see more up here. And then feel free on page 13 to start brainstorming different safe to fail experiments. And while you're doing this, if anything that is coming up for you where you're like, you know what, I want to make sure I'm offering this to other people in the room because of the resources I have, you can also go to page 15 and there will be an offering slide where you can share who you are, your contact information, and anything you have to offer the people in this room that has come up for you. We don't want to make this anything where you feel obligated to give an offering, but if there's something that's come up, feel free to write in page 15, on slide 15, anything that you'd like to offer. For the purposes of time, I'm going to let you all continue to think about this a bit, but why I think I'm going to just talk a little bit, why I think that this first one, the hosting a grant writing workshop in a community space that we have access to, is a good safe to fail experiment, is because it's one activity, one workshop in a space that you have access to, and you kind of have the resources so you can know from that grant writing workshop, was it was it something useful? Was it something that people attended? If no one attended, then you need to do another experiment to see what you can do to bring up more attendance. Or if people weren't able to get the grants from after that workshop, you'll learn something from it. So these are all great, like small pieces of things that you can do to try collaborating to do things more together. I want to just now close on page 16. Feel free to keep writing if you'd like, if you want an activity. But I hope that this was all useful to all of you. And I hope that you can see this from a broader context too, and ways to see how you can start thinking about how you can identify opportunities through linking assets in general. So right now we're talking about it on a broad scale of what we can do within the larger Appalachia Cooperatives initiative. But this can happen on an individual scale too. If you're talking with a job seeker, you're generally trying to see what skills and knowledge assets do they have that can be linked with your capital and physical assets. Also, entrepreneurs do this in different ways, where they might talk together to discuss different ways to link potentially their social assets with another group's capital assets and see what can come from that. And then also, I hope you I know we just started touching on the safe to fail experiments, but I hope that you can think about how can you try a smaller version of some form of collaborative partnership before making a big commitment to collaborate, and test out what works, what doesn't work, so you can continue to learn and grow before making too large of a formal commitment. And then also, if you're seeing anything that's a failure that didn't work out as you'd expect, how can you view it as a learning opportunity and see what you can set up to try next to see what you can do to make it better and better? I hope that this was useful for you all, and I'd love to stay updated with all of you and the work that you're doing. I just think this co-op space is so interesting and cool, and I want to do my part in bringing this type of work to more people. And yeah, I hope this was useful. Thank you all for letting me share.